your textbooks. Good day, all. My name is Terry Armstrong, and in this video I'll be presenting an approach that is designed to help you get the most out of your textbooks. A little bit about me: I have a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling and a bachelor's degree in psychology. The information and recommendations presented in this video did not originate with me, but from the professor of my first college course, who was a neuroscientist. The course was a biological psychology course. So the backstory of this video and this approach to textbooks. In high school, I was a very good student with a 4.0 GPA, valedictorian of my school, and found learning to be fairly easy. In my first college semester and in the first test I ever took in college, which was in a biological psychology course, I earned a D on my first exam, which was the first D I'd ever experienced in my life other than handwriting, and I freaked out. I decided to go meet with the instructor, the neuroscientist, during his office hour. In this meeting, I discussed how I was actually a really good student and don't know what happened on the exam, and asked him if he had any tips on how I could improve my performance in his class. And what follows are the recommendations from him on how to approach his textbook and study for his class. And I'll tell you up front, I followed these recommendations and earned A's in his final five tests, and ultimately earned an A in his class. So step one, he said, was let the book know who's boss. But step one, you buy the textbook first. You take it home and you throw it on the floor and kick it around without breaking your toe or damaging the book. So kick it around gently. So in the meeting with him, he told me these last two steps. Basically said, pull out your book. And so I had it with me. I pulled it out. He said, throw it on the floor. And I went, what? He said, yeah, throw it on the floor. It's like, okay. And so he said, stand up, and I want you to gently kick the book around. And so I did. And then he said, step two, pick up the book from the floor. Open book. And then I'm paraphrasing the rest of what he told me with examples and his actual approach to the textbook then. He said, identify the sections of the book that are required reading from the course syllabus. And for the first required chapter, outline the chapter in a new document. Now it'd be Microsoft Word or Google or Excel or somewhere. But reading and writing the title and subtitles from the table of contents of your first chapter. So for example, here on the left-hand side, you'll see Part 1, Perspectives on Racial and Ethnic Groups. On the right-hand side, you'll see in green that I retyped Part 1, Perspectives on Racial and Ethnic Groups. And then you see under that, I have number 1 on the left, and also I've just copied that into my sample document here. So I didn't go all the way, as you noticed, but I went all the way to some different subtitles to give you an idea of how to write this into your chapter outline. And then just continue through the end of the chapter outline and for the remainder of the required chapters of all the required readings of the class. So then he said, okay, so I want you to go to the back of the first chapter and read the chapter summary and or conclusion. So in this particular book that I took from, they had both a conclusion and summary, so I've included those both as examples. He said, read through those carefully, read the key terms, and write any of the identified vocabulary and definitions, if available, at the back, and any questions at the end of the chapter into your chapter outline. So it'd be at the kind of the bottom of your chapter outline, since it is under summary, right? For example, in this case, from a vocabulary standpoint, I just chose one of the words, amalgamation. that is in the key terms, and wrote down in green what the definition is. And he said the simple act of reading and writing the word and definition will involve your active participation, whether you write it by hand, whether you keyboard it, and then lead to better recall. He also mentioned that it would be helpful to just read it out loud when you're writing it, so you can say it, you can hear it. And then for this example, so when setting up your study guide for vocabulary, there are two possible options here in terms of the types of questions that you might create. One is a fill-in, like amalgamation is blank, and then you learn what that definition is. Or if you know your course is going to be multiple choice, you could pursue the approach of a fill-in. So like blank, to identify the word, blank is the process by which a dominant group, and so forth. So there are two types of questions that you could approach and then utilize into your study guide. Step 5. Now we're starting to read. And so you would read the content under each heading and subheading, and then highlight in the book the seemingly important information from which you'll formulate and write your questions. And do this after each heading or subheading. Don't wait and read the whole chapter first. So in this first heading, Exploring Race and Ethnicity, you will read, highlight some areas that you think are really important information that probably you need to know, and then highlight it, which I've kind of given an example of on the right-hand side. And then once you have highlighted just that one section, then you will formulate questions based on the highlighted words. So we'll go to the next page to see what that might look like. So here's where you formulate the questions for the major points you've highlighted under each heading in the chapter outline document. So under Exploring Race and Ethnicity, you'll see that. Then you will insert the questions in your outline under where you have Exploring Race and Ethnicity, and you've identified 2 questions where in terms of what you think are the most important points of that heading. And then you basically just continue that process. You continue creating questions under all the headings and subheadings, all the summaries, all the vocabulary, and you incorporate that into your outline. And then the result will be a ready-made study guide for the chapter. So that's, in essence, all you do. So you engage the book really differently than just reading it from front to back. So some other points to consider in terms of preparing and studying for your classes. So you'll be using the questions to formulate the study guides for each chapter, but you can also incorporate the main points from the lectures and or instructor PowerPoints through reviewing your lecture notes, reviewing the PowerPoints, and creating more questions for the lecture study guide, for a PowerPoint study guide to add to your own personal study guide for the chapter. You'll create questions out of each bold-faced or italicized vocabulary in the book. Sometimes they don't have the vocabulary listed in the book as cleanly as the book that I use, so it might be either bold or italicized within the context of the book. And usually right after that, the word, they'll have the definition, and then you'll incorporate that vocabulary word and definition into the study guide and into the study guide questions. So number 3, read, write, and be able to answer any review questions that are at the end of the chapter. Incorporate that into your study guide by creating maybe even sub-questions sometimes within the different review questions, so that you know out of these really important pieces of information what the instructor and what the book feels is important. Number 4, I think this is a key point. If the instructor provides a study guide for an exam, certainly incorporate it into these efforts. Don't replace these efforts, especially if the instructor is using the book and lecture as part of his or her exam, you want to add to your book study guide with his or her study guide. All right, so then what you would do is review those questions as a part of your preparation for an exam. And then you just do that for every exam. You could do it for every class where there is a lot of reading requirements. And then you're just engaging with the content of the class in preparation for your exams. So congratulations. You'll have not only conquered your textbook, you've not only attacked your textbook, but you'll have done all you can to acquire and absorb the important content of your textbook, which is most important. Best wishes throughout your college education. And hope you enjoyed the video, and you all take care.